Alright, so today what we're going to do is we're going to do something basically, this is called pixel pushing. And what you're doing is you're just basically creating your assets and stuff like this. Now, I've rotated the canvas, and I've rotated it by simply going to image and then rotate canvas, and I've rotated it counterclockwise. And actually undo. Okay, so I've done that, and the reason I've done that is just so I can zoom up and show you guys this piece. For now, I'm gonna work just on this particular section, and then what I can do is I can either copy and move it or around and stuff like that. So my brush that I use is pretty much you go to brush presets or brush tool panel here, and I'm going to take off shape dynamics. I'm going to go on the transfer, and I personally just use this. It works for the most part. You can add in different stuff down the road. And I'm not a real, now that I'm looking at this, I'm not liking the background hue that I've got on there. So I'm going to just go to Image, Adjustments, and Hue and Saturation, Control U, and I'm just going to pull a little bit less of this red out here, I think. Maybe, let's see here, just to darken a little bit more. And then basically it's time to pixel push. So what you're doing is, at this stage of the game, you've got your basic forms in. Here's my wood, my highlight, and my shadow. And so what you're doing is just going in here and pretty much just kind of adding in what you think needs to be put in there. Okay, and it's just a matter of, if you want a knot, you want to go a little bit darker, and let's, put in this knot. And the easiest way to do this is you can either, there's a couple different ways to do this. What I tend to do is I go to arrange, or window, arrange, and then new window for chest, and that creates a new window, right? And then what you're going to do is drag this window off the screen or onto another screen. That's basically what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to kind of minimize this screen. And I know you guys can't see this right now, but all I'm doing is I'm minimizing this screen here, and that's just basically to allow me to work. And I can zoom up as much as I want and see the result. All right. So you're just gonna add in knots, and you can add in your wood grain around the knots and the little things like this. I'm just adding in this with a small brush now, like so, and just kind of go back and forth and add what you think you want in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want slivers in there, I'll get to that in a second, but all I'm doing is I'm just drawing this dark form of the wood grain in here, and then if you want, you can actually accent the cracks in the wood, and just kind of, we'll draw another piece of wood like so, and pretty much something like this. Now I'm just kind of doing this really fast just to get the stuff in there and show you guys how it's done. Alright, and we can zoom up in this, or zoom out just a hair so you guys can see. All right, and so as you're working on this, you know, if you like that highlight in there, you know, it's really your color palette you want. If you want a little bit higher color palette, just, you know, zoom up in there, and you can kind of add in, you know, spots where that wood is pretty. It's just got the highlights in there, like so. You know, and this doesn't look like much now, but as you zoom out, it's pretty much going to add in just different pieces here. You know, just a different tool set. Now, with this, you know, you can go in and, you know, I've added in like the highlights, and if you don't like the shadows, say if you want a darker shadow in there, you know, you can always go in and push your shadows darker. Like so. And just add this in there. You know, you can add in, say you want the little shadow over this. I'm just kind of going in, and you want to keep your form in there. So like this in-cut wood grain stuff that we're going to keep in there. We're going to keep that in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm making kind of a torture chest. If you want hard edges, go in there and just define your edges a little bit more. Make sure that you've got, you know, something in there, whether it's a darker highlight, you know, just to accent that a little bit more. You can go in there, and if you want light on a certain area, you can always go in with a real small brush and just kind of accent that in there. And it doesn't seem like much while we're working at this size, but when you look at the smaller version, like so, and, you know, it's just these little subtle, you know, highlights, you know, makes the wood pop out. And it really depends on what you're going for. If you're going for a darker, you know, a darker aspect, or if you're going for, you know, something a little bit more cheery. You know, this is a cheery little chest. Maybe we can go a little bit darker. And, you know, so you want little things in there like that. Maybe, you know, add some slivers in there, you know, just by adding a little bit of a highlight here or there, you know, something like so. And then, you know, we can add in, you know, you can add in like your multi-tone grains. Like right now we've got light and dark, yes. But if you want to go a little bit darker, a little bit more saturated, saturated's better for shadows. We can actually go darker in there, and that will push out, you know, the deeper holes into the wood. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just watch that it doesn't get too dark. Like this might start getting a little bit dark, so just grab a little bit more and pull from it. And, you know, like this. So this is pretty much just, you know, me going through and, you know, picking the colors I like, and, you know, go a little bit more saturated. And then once you get that done, you know, I've just got my piece in here like so. Once you get that in there and you like the way that feels, you know, you always want to save it off and then go check your updated version. But remember, when you check your updated version, we have to rotate the canvas counterclockwise and save it again. and that will kind of, I'll bring that in here real quick, and that's basically you know, what it looks like in game. You know, whether you like it or not, you know, it shows you how you're building the form without actually getting the form. Now, for this particular one, I won't go through and add in all the bump maps and the normal maps. I'm going to instead go and work on we'll work on just the diffuse texture. So I'm going to go back and step backwards so I can rotate it again so you guys can see. And so we're back here. And then the next step is you want to add a new layer. I go to layer, new layer, it's Control-Shift-N. I have a hotkey set up for it on my Wacom tablet. And then if you want to add in some, you know, some dirt and grime, you want to probably pick something a little bit grimier, something like this, or even let's go with this brush here. It's kind of a pixelated brush. It's a default in Photoshop, and let's just add in, you know, we can go up a little bit bigger, and all I'm doing is just kind of adding in this on a new layer. I'm just adding in this and that was way too much. I don't know why I did that. So, alright, so let's, you know, I'm going to just make sure, you know, this is my thing here. I'm going to take my transfer and I'm going to turn my pen pressure on so I use less of it. And, you know, you can kind of add in some grime on the bottom here. And grime should be added in layers. You know, you've got, you know, grime from sitting the treasure chest up. And we're just going to kind of add a little bit of grime here. And we're just going to change the opacity on the layer downward a little bit. And that's simply done by changing this number here, you know, so it moves it down. And then, you know, you can add in, you know, nicks and scrapes. Nicks and scrapes is by adding in a new layer. We're just going to hit the new layer button down here. The nicks and scrapes are basically, you want to go back to your the brush that we were using before, which is your hard round. Ooh. Let's take off that dual brush, take off scattering. So this is the hard round. Make sure your spacing is normal. And then what you want to do for nicks and scrapes and stuff like that is, you know, pick a highlight color and then draw the highlight color, and then right above it you want to draw in the shadow color. So, you know, you can have a couple nicks. You know, stuff like that. You know, you can have, you know, let's just add some real quick ones in here. So we're just gonna, also when you're adding nicks and scrapes, you know, don't go in and add in a ton of random, like, you know, scrapes and stuff like that you can't, oops, wrong side. You always want to pay attention to where your shadow is coming from. So we're just going to go in there. And again, as you can see, you know, I'm actually getting down to the actual pixels and stuff like that. So nicks and scrapes in there are pretty simple. You know, things like that. Getting your dirt in there. You know, if you've got like a chunk of wood taken out, that wood's going to be lighter than the worn stuff. So maybe, you know, something like over here will take out a piece of wood, and you just kind of go in there and highlight your wood, and we're just going to use the highlight colors. But then again, you also have to get your shadows in there. So something like this, and then you know, get a tint of your wood grain in there. But don't forget those dark shadows. So something like this. And I just tend to create new layers when I want to, you know, experiment with stuff and get stuff in there. You can always collapse these layers down because I'm not doing multiply or anything like that. And if you want to do multiply, you probably want to do it on like the dirt layer. Always rename your layers. So if I add a multiply, that's what it's just going to darken it up a little bit. You know, things like that. And it's pretty much just you know, taking a look and you know, looking at the chest that you want to emulate, or you know, say if you've got an idea, you know, what has this chest gone through. You know, for this intensive purposes, you know, I'm just doing basic Photoshop in there. It's not going to get, you know, nothing special. And this is just your highlights and stuff. Now, once I'm done with or this is just a texture, basically the wood texture that I'm using. Now, once you're done with this map here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out, which you can't see, so there we go. So I'm going to zoom out something like this, and then for this intensive purpose, for the demo, I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to highlight what I've done, and I'm going to go to Edit, Copy Merged, and then Edit, Paste, and then that'll paste a new layer in there. And as you can see, I can move this around. Now it really depends on where you're at. Now, because we've changed this with your wood, what we can actually do is we can actually take this and we're going to edit, transform, free transform, and if you hold in, I think it's Shift, it'll rotate 90 degrees. So all I'm going to do is go in there and pick kind of the area that I want, like that. And then I'm just going to flip vertical so that it doesn't kind of match the other location here. And enter. And then you can just use your eraser. And this is where that first layer comes in. So you want to go in there and just use the eraser and clean that up. So there's that one done. And then I'm just going to do another paste merged. Actually, edit, paste, and that'll put another one in there. And we just go to the select thing, and we're going to just move this here, and I can actually move it up over like so, and then we're going to do an edit, paste again, and then let's select, oops, I'm going to do an edit, transform, Control T, and we're just going to move this one up like so, and I'm going to just move it somewhat like so. If you want to squish them together, you can, you know, squish the edges together a little bit. And when it comes down to the inside of the chest, Now, I would hand paint these all normally, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste this stuff in there and transform it to fit what I need. And I'm just going to paste this in there and then just go around and erase. And of course, I should get in there. And let's move this up just a hair. Alright, so all I'm doing is I'm getting in there and you know, putting this stuff in there. You know, again, it's pretty simple to do, to go in and paint all this, but for time constraints, and just to show you guys what we're doing here, select transform, and now remember these are smaller, so we're just gonna do this, and then you can actually just go layer, duplicate layer, there we go. Say OK, and then selection transform, and hold in shift and just rotate it the other direction and move it like so, and then you actually can move this one above, or this the baseboard above, and then that way you don't have to worry about all the other stuff. And what we're just going to do is we're going to duplicate this layer again. I'm just going to drag it on the little new symbol here, and selection transform, and holding in shift to rotate, and moving it above, and then let's see here, duplicate that layer again, and selection transform. And this is what I've got my hotkey set up as. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just merge these two layers together by going into layer, merge down, Control E. And then the reason I'm doing that is then I can just go on with my eraser and clean up the spots that I'm not going to use anymore. So something like that. It's pretty basic. Then we're going to just go back into our canvas rotation and rotate it counterclockwise again. And then I'm going to save it off. And then I'm going to basically bring up my 3D Studio Max. And there's my updated textures, except I just lost. There we go. And there it is. Okay, so and that's pretty much the gist of what we did here. You know, it's pretty much just your base textures of your wood, and then the next video we will basically we will start with the metal. All right.